Well, with promises of armed guards, deportations and a special task force, the federal opposition is ramping up its attack on the federal government as a political firestorm over anti-Semitism intensifies.
3 days after the firebombing of a Melbourne synagogue,
police have been working around the clock, gathering the evidence.
The declaration came.
We are treating this as a terrorist attack.
As the political row deepened.
It was obvious from the start that this was a terrorist attack. The way in which the Prime Minister has dragged his feet and the fact that federal authorities weren't engaged immediately is quite astounding.
I have been in touch with the Australian Federal Police Commissioner every day since Friday, and including Friday.
The opposition ramping up its attacks on the PM.
I'm really not sure what took the Prime Minister 72 hours to find the words to condemn it in such clear terms.
Do you think it's dangerous that politicians have come out and decided to call it a terrorist act before our terrorism units have even done that?
I just think it's dangerous that the Prime Minister's been so weak for all of his time in office.
The Victorian Premier also slammed for not attending a vigil held in the wake of the attack.
It was disgraceful. This is a community that are crying out for her help. Jacinta Allen has failed the Melbourne Jewish community.
Peter Dutton today vowing a major crackdown if he wins the next election.
But I make it very clear, whatever the resource requirements and whatever the cost, they will be met.
His promise, a dedicated police task force, armed guards at synagogues and new powers to deport visa holders involved in acts of anti-Semitism. That's despite not having any evidence that migrants have been involved.
It is impossible for me to believe that not a single person on a visa visiting our country has been involved in these protests.
The government hitting back.
For the opposition to try and sow discord and make political points is absolutely disgusting.
Unveiling a new federal police anti-Semitism task force of their own.
An agile and experienced squad of counter-terrorism investigators who will focus on threats, violence and hatred towards the Australian Jewish community and parliamentarians.
That this is a time where the country should be looking for national unity, not looking for areas of distinction and difference over every issue.
It's not a time for finger pointing, it's not a time for cheap criticisms like we've seen from Mr Dutton. It's a time for unity, and I'm waiting for it.
Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen is with us now. Premier, first off, do you agree with the Police Commissioner and the AFP's decision to classify this as a terror attack?
Well, absolutely. I take the advice on these critical security incidences from Victoria Police and by the Federal Police. What this declaration means now is that all those counter-terrorism resources can be put to this investigation. This was an evil, sickening attack, but this is an important step forward.
The figures from the Executive Council of Australian Jewry show that there is a trend towards more anti-Semitism in our country, but they particularly point to an issue in your state, Victoria. Do you accept that Victoria has an issue, a particular issue, with anti-Semitism?
Well, we've seen since that evil terrorist attack on October 7 last year that there has been a global rise in anti-Semitism, and that is what we have seen here in Melbourne as well, which is why since October 7 last year, Victoria Police have had a dedicated task force to dealing with investigating incidences associated with the conflict in the Middle East. They've had hundreds of investigations. There's been dozens and dozens of arrests, and that is on top of the work that has been done to increase security, to increase police presence, and also to look at what the laws need to do to be changed to make it absolutely clear that this hateful behaviour has no place here in Melbourne, has no place on any street in any town in this country.
Respectfully, Premier, I think we can all hear that you're not really answering the question that I'm asking you, which is about whether your state, in particular, has a problem, because over the past year, almost half of the reported anti-Semitic incidents in Australia have occurred in your state.
Well, Hamish, I'll repeat again what I've just indicated to you.
Please don't repeat it again.
I absolutely acknowledge that we have an issue here in Melbourne and Victoria. Hamish, I'm hoping you can finish that sentence. I absolutely condemn anti-Semitism in every single form. It is evil. It is hateful. And I absolutely acknowledge that here in Melbourne, like we are seeing in too many places around the world, we have seen since October 7 an increase in anti-Semitic behaviour. It has absolutely no place. No place here in Melbourne, no place in any town in this country. And that is why there has been a huge amount of work undertaken by Victoria Police. We have a community here who is grieving. And I spoke to some of those people on Friday, and it was devastating to hear them talk about the loss. The physical loss, yes, but also to what they lost in terms of their place of worship. And we should hold them front and centre in our thoughts of every action we take from here.
One thing the Jewish community has asked for, and you can deliver on, is a permit system to stop these pro-Palestinian marches past places of worship, carrying Palestinian flags, chanting out things like from the river to the sea. Why won't you do that?
So we have already, in terms of the advice on these matters, I take the advice from the Chief Commissioner of Victoria Police, and he has advised me, and he has said this publicly, that he does not believe that permit system that is in place in New South Wales is necessary here in Victoria, because Victoria Police have the powers that they need, arresting people, investigating people for hateful acts.
Premier, the role of leaders in complicated moments is to stand up and pull the community together. Do you think that's lacking right now?
We have a very strong, proud, united community here in Victoria, and I say that because I meet every single day with representatives from a whole range of different groups and cultures who have chosen Melbourne and Victoria as their home. And they have contributed to make Victoria the great state that it is today. And we know that we must continue to show strength and support to stamp out hate and vilification at every turn. It's why we've worked with those communities and worked with those multi-faith groups to bring to the Parliament a bill that will bring the strongest anti-vilification framework in this nation to the Victorian community, giving police those extra powers by putting vilification and hate in the Crimes Act where it belongs.
Premier, we know these are complicated issues and times, and we appreciate you turning up tonight to talk to us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hamish.